Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
May be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
What's cracking, everybody? James Koh, Matt Harmon here with you. Reception Perception, the show, as we react to, it seems like back-to-back weeks now, Matt Harmon, which is very unpredictable results.
Yeah, no, the NFL's given us some surprises here in the middle of the season, and that's always great. Listen, that's why the sport is so entertaining. And one of the things that I think I've said a lot this year, because it feels like, it's like seasons of half truths, like this chapter of the season, this team is this, and we can count on this part of the team or whatever. It's the old, and then it completely flips, right? The things just go crazy or whatever, and then they look like a totally different operation sometimes. And it's something that Sigmund Bloom always says, which is you can be right and wrong within the course of the same season. It's like you can be a real big obviously I think Ayuk is like the hope. I mean, we've got Ayuk coming on the TV here in like an hour and a half, which I always hate. I always like sneaky hate, by the way. These guys because these guys of mine who like are not okay, so if it's like Steph Diggs and like, oh, Diggs is going to go out there in prime time and like, that's great. I love that, right? He's, he's just going to crush it. But these guys that are kind of embattled, like Brand, I think Ayuk is past the early season BS that we dealt with. But like, what if he goes out there and has like a big drop or some, it's just that like little twinge of anxiety I don't enjoy. Yeah, like last year when Deontay Johnson was, like in the middle of that huge sequence when he was just dropping every pass that came his way. It's like, honestly though, I appreciate Deontay because that really finally was the moment where I was like, you know what? I got to get off Twitter on game days, dude. Like I can't like have the timeline just going and like reading 20 tweets about how he sucks and anybody that thinks he's good is an idiot. And like, I have all these good reasons to back up. It's like, so it was a good life lesson from Deontay. Good. So, hopefully Ayuk is out there crushing. But my point is saying here is like, it feels like this season more than ever, like is a season of half truths or quarter truths. And we are like, teams are just these evolving specimens. Like the Chargers, especially, I feel that way about. There's a lot of teams I think that I feel that way about right now.
Chargers are a head scratching team, but I mean, like, I just look at the results, right? Like, okay, the Ravens come in heavily favored, right? They get beat down by 12 points and they looked awful, right? Yeah. The Bucs were a double-digit favorite over Washington, and they just got smoked.
Listen, buddy, you run into the Taylor Heineke buzzsaw, that's going to happen to you.
And then, how about this? So we had two games, and I can't remember the last time this happened. Somebody smarter than me, I'm sure, knows this, but like, The Cardinals came in as double-digit favorites, and they lost by double digits as well. I mean, they just got absolutely obliterated.
Boat raced, yeah.
I mean, like, when was the last time you seen this where it's like you have three, I forgot what the Ravens line was, but I know they were approaching double digits too. But it's like three teams that were just like, 9, 10, 11-point favorites, all losing by double digits. You know what I mean? Like, that's how topsy-turvy week 9 and week 10 have been. It's just been, man, it has been a couple of weeks here in the NFL from a real life perspective. I'll stay in that game too. How shocked were you? Antonio Gibson ends up popping up.
I wanted to talk about Antonio Gibson. I forgot to even put him on the outline, but yeah, let's have like a conversation about this. And maybe no one cares out there because like they've already written him off as a bust or whatever. Yeah. But I drafted so much of Antonio Gibson that I need to talk about this, right? Because he was like a guy whose upside I was obsessed with. And, obviously everybody realizes he's been hurt all year. He was still limited coming out of the bye with the shin injury, right? But it's not even just the injury situation that's gone wrong for Antonio Gibson. Like literally everything that could go wrong for Antonio Gibson has gone wrong. I think I've made this point before, but yes, obviously his own health has been a problem. I tweeted this during the game when Terry McLaurin, oh my God, like such a nerve-wracking moment when Terry McLaurin went to like get his injury checked out or whatever.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
by the way,
exactly.
I was sitting with two of my Trevor Lewis, who does our Yahoo social media editorial, and Ravi, who's our producer. I'm sitting there with those guys on Sunday, and it's like a collarbone injury, and Trevor says, "Whoa, man, when is a collarbone injury anything other than like a broken collarbone?" I was like, well, actually, I was playing football on a pavement one time and got a collarbone contusion. So, I mean, maybe he's just got a bruised. That's a long story for another time too, by the way. Involved a sequence where I couldn't pull my pants up to go to school that day. So, the old collarbone injury was pretty tough. So I feel for you, Terry. But anyways, my point in that is, Terry does come back into the game, but in that moment, I was like, think about the guys that were supposed to be on this field for Washington, right? Like it's supposed to be Ryan Fitzpatrick, in April, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel. And now it's like the preseason boys and what's left of Antonio Gibson, like we've got friggin' Taylor Heineke, this goofball cast of receivers, Ricky Seals Jones at tight end. All of those injuries, also Brandon, I think this kind of went under discussed, but Brandon Sheriff, their star offensive lineman, came back off the bye. So that was a plus for Antonio Gibson. Also, I wonder if the biggest thing coming out of the bye is not that, maybe Antonio Gibson is a little fresher. I don't know that he's ever going to be anywhere close to 100% this year, just with this whole shin situation. But if anybody needed a freaking week off football, it was Antonio Gibson. But the defense was interesting to me for Washington. Like, I know they lose Chase Young. Montez Sweat has been out for a while too, but they still got some guys up front. And I just wonder if over the bye, that's when most coaches get in the lab and like try to figure things out. I wonder if two, defensive guys and Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio finally were like, all right, enough is enough. Like, let's figure out our coverage issues on the back end, because they were just blowing coverages left and right, but they looked pretty good against Tampa. They got after Brady a little bit. They made some plays on the ball, some opportunistic moments. And like, that's basically what we were thinking about for Washington. I think all of those things together have been what has held back Antonio Gibson, especially the defense, because we were counting on this guy. If he was going to get game scripted out in favor of JD McKissic sometimes, it's like, well, if the defense is better, at least he'll be in positive game scripts and like be able to have 24 carries some weeks.
I mean, it is interesting though, right? It's not like he was efficient by any stretch of the imagination. 24 carries, 64 yards, 2.67 yards per carry, which is again not very good. But man, you talk about the just right place, right time, the great situation for him. They had some short fields and he falls into the end zone 2 times, man. And you're like, God, better to be lucky than good. You know what I mean? Because this could have easily been a situation where he gets no touchdowns. And like what we're staring at is another single point PPR game where he's got like 65 total yards, you know, and you're like, and everyone in fantasy is like, yeah, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. Can't play this, this single-minded, running back against a non-pass catching running back against, Tampa Bay's defense. So, but yeah, look, better to be lucky than good, and I'm with you, man. I have him in so many spots, bro. And like when he put up that 20 spot, I'm like, I can't believe he actually got
on some benches of mine for sure. Some places it's like, okay, I got to start him because I just don't have a better option. It's like him or Adrian Peterson. Yeah. Like that's the pain I'm in at running back in some spot because of injuries. But man, Antonio Gibson, like, I just wonder if there's any optimism going forward, because it's like we got to remember too, going into the bye, James, we were like, Jaret Patterson is out there getting like non-garbage time carries. Like JD McKissic is running well ahead of Antonio Gibson. So to see him get 24 carries off the bye, again, I think mostly because the game script was not what we expected, but was actually good against Tampa Bay. Like that was established a run type of game script. He gets 24 carries, Jaret Patterson and J.D. McKissic, I think, combined for like fewer than 10 touches or something like that together. So I don't know. It was at least a show of good faith. Maybe they think he's a little fresher. And if the defense is going to be better, they get Carolina next week. We'll talk about Carolina later on in the program, little revenge spot there for Ron Rivera. But, regardless here, we've got a no Curtis Samuel revenge game, most likely. I don't know when that guy's ever going to play again. But
I think he's done.
I don't know. It's so weird because he's not on IR, right? I mean, are they just place him on IR so like we can end the pain?
I know. I feel like I think they've been trying to rehab, and rehab has just not been taking. So I think the next logical step is not even IR. It's just basically like, okay, season-ending surgery, and then IR.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, anyways, but neither here nor there. The one thing I say about Antonio Gibson that has been super frustrating, and I think I speak for everybody when I say this, like, yo, this guy's a converted wide receiver. Like, why are we not throwing this man the ball when there's just a complete dearth of pass catchers on the scene? Like, I don't understand that. He has not seen more than 3 targets in any game since week 1, bro. Like, that doesn't make any sense. He's averaging 2.3 targets per game since week 1. Like, what? I know. That part I don't understand. And that's the area where I thought his game was going to grow this year, and basically turn into like a bigger, stronger Austin Eckler. You know what I mean? Like, get this guy the ball out of the backfield, and he can run it between the tackles too. Like, that would be interesting, right? But anyways, not to be the case. I've spent a lot of time talking about this Washington football team, but yeah, what a weird ass game that was. You know, you're like, golly. Especially, by the way, Tom Brady throwing to like these random, this random Darden character. Like, come on, dude. Like, throw to Mike Evans. I always think about this too. I'm like, hey, I always think about that Marcus Grant hashtag of like, throw to your good players.
Oh, dude, Marcus took that from me. That's a me thing.
Oh, there you go.
Because back when, like, shout out to Odell Beckham, he's about to play. I remember like Eli Manning would go through these stretches where it's like, yeah, let me make sure these other goofballs out there are involved, and like, just throw to Beckham, man. Yeah. Like, come on.
Yeah,
but,
just throw to your
100
good
years
players,
ago. At this
What's
point.
going on?
Just throw to your good players.
Exactly. It's kind of a good segue, a dovetail into a conversation of unexpected running back production, right? Because we weren't expecting Antonio Gibson to do what he did. And then how about Ramondre Stevenson doing what he did? It's like, yo, this dude didn't practice all week long, Matt Harmon.
I know.
He had a concussion all week. He's taken on one of the best. We've highlighted it at length on this podcast. Cleveland's got a baller-ass run defense, and I'm thinking, yo, I don't even know if you could play Ramondre. It's like he didn't practice all week. I know Damian Harris is out. But he's got an awful matchup on paper, and like, who knows about the Belichick? No, Ramondre was the dude, and he was a bad boy, man.
Yeah, there was definitely part of me that's like, man, do you think that Bill Belichick, like a guy that he's already put in and out of the doghouse for being untrustworthy, like the guy doesn't practice all week, like, is he really gonna? But man, they rode him, and Mac Jones was great in this game too. So accurate, so efficient. He really is like just a perfect point guard quarterback right now. Like, this is just a reminder, like, guys can continue to improve. I think Mac Jones is looking great. And, it was a surprise. It was certainly surprising, the game script that New England found themselves in. But one thing we've also talked about with Ramondre Stevenson over the course of this last few shows is like, this guy has got juice, man. And like, the Patriots need some juice in their offense, right? They're not going to get it. We love Jacoby Myers, but we said even in the preseason when we wanted to draft him, like, he's not a vertical threat. Hey, he finally got his first career touchdown. Shout out to Jacoby Myers.
End zone.
So great. So great.
Dude, hey, yo, what were you doing? Because, like, honestly, real talk, I legit was pumped when Jacoby got
I was so hyped for him. It's funny too. Mac Jones apparently said going into the game, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you your first touchdown this week, Jacoby. Like, if it's right, I'm gonna." And it wasn't even him that threw the pass; it was Brian Hoyer, because they were beating the shit out the Browns so bad.
Amazing.
Yeah, Jacoby also made a great play on a vertical ball when Mac Jones just dropped that thing in there on a 9 route. So we'll see. I think the Patriots offense could be getting better, but on Ramondre Stevenson overall, Patriots are probably going to the playoffs, dude. Like, they're just back. They're back. It's like they never left. Stevenson, I don't know that you can play him going forward because Damian Harris is going to be back. It seems unlikely to me that they're just going to throw Damian Harris on the shelf, right? It's similar to like the Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams problem that you got in Denver. It's like, yeah, one of these guys in Javonte Williams, I think it's more, the gap is bigger there in terms of like, man, Williams has got some juice. He's explosive. He looks incredible, but Melvin Gordon's been playing good football for them. And they're not just going to go to real life Melvin Gordon and be like, sorry, buddy, we got to put your ass on the bench. Like, it's just not going to happen. I don't think the Patriots are going to go to Damian Harris, a guy that they've also gone back to amid fumble issues and stuff like that, and be like, yeah, you're just going to the bench. So it's gonna. I don't know that Stevenson is like, he's probably in more of like a desperation play, like not totally illogical, but a pretty thin play this week against the Atlanta Falcons defense, who got boat raced by Dallas. So yeah, I don't know that Stevenson is like starting going forward, but it's a continual reminder. We also got another reminder of that this week, of why you want to have your backup running back. Like at this point, you know, your wide receiver 5, like Tim Patrick or whatever, no disrespect to Tim Patrick, but like, you don't need to have Tim Patrick on your team anymore if he's not starting for you. If he's starting for you, you might be in a bit of trouble. But like, anyways, if you're making a playoff push, like that wide receiver 5, like we'll talk later at the end, like who the next Ramondre Stevenson might be, like in a couple minutes here, but like cut his ass for the next Ramondre Stevenson. Like in the event that there's an injury or whatever, you suddenly have a starting fantasy back. Like that was the lesson that I learned off the Ramondre Stevenson thing. And also just another reminder, like I think he's a pretty good player.
You know, it's interesting. I actually would consider him to be like, you know, low end RB2 flex consideration, even with Damian Harris back. Like, it's not like Ramondre Stevenson saw a crazy, you know, snap share percentage, right? Like, obviously he dominated the touches, but he only played 56% of the snaps. Right. So what does that tell me? It tells me that, like, when Damian Harris comes back, let's say Damian Harris gets 60% of the snaps and Ramondre gets about 40%. In a more competitive game, I think Ramondre could see some passing work out of the backfield, which I think obviously adds a lot to his potential PPR upside. So I'm actually intrigued. I think even with Damian Harris back, I think Ramondre does have a role, especially in PPR leagues.
The problem is, I think Brandon Bolden is going to remain in the picture. Like, you know, there's always that, there's that third guy on the fringes. You don't think so? I think he's too reliable, man. I just think he is like coach's catnip, especially a guy like Bill Belichick. But to your point though, the Patriots are 21st in neutral pass rate. Like there is a lot to go around there in terms of the backfield. Yeah. But, you know, if we're looking at like Damian Harris getting 15, 16 carries, Ramondre Stevenson getting 10 and 11, maybe in like a good game script. And this could be that type of game script. Like the Falcons are bad, man. Like, and is there any team that's like better equipped to be, you know, than the Patriots to go into a team like Atlanta and be like, hey, you have one guy, especially if Patterson misses this game, we've got one guy you got to worry about, and you're also making it a little too easy to take away Kyle Pitts because you line him up as like an X receiver. They could get smoked, and that could lead to a very run heavy game script. So I'm with you. I'm not saying Stevenson is like done now, but I think that he's certainly not going to do what he did last week. Like I don't think he's just going to take Damian Harris's job.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. Although Matt Ryan's so weird, man. Like you count him out and all of a sudden the dude just pops up for 3 touchdowns. I know, yeah. Like it's so weird. Yeah. Talk about a knife in the chest. Jesus Christ. Me rolling out Matt Ryan in a bunch of big spots. Oh my God.
Ooh, oh no.
Dude. I'm like, hey, what is going on in the fantasy streets right now? Because
especially we had just gotten to a point where it's like we trust the Falcons again. Matt Ryan playing great ball last week against the Saints. Right? Not so much.
Totally played good ball against the Saints, and I'm like, hey, this is supposed to be the highest scoring game of the weekend. Falcons going to trail. Matt Ryan's going to have to throw the ball. Dallas's defense is susceptible over the top. Okay, nope, none of that. None of that worked. I got smoked. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. Tough scene.
Do you want to talk stash, like potential next Ramondre Stevenson now, and then we can talk AJ Dillon, because I think they're separate. Yeah. But yeah, so I talked about this. I'm not going to throw it up on too long on the screen, but I talked about this on the Sicko show last week. But the running back stash rankings, new feature on the site. I'm also going to organize a features tab on the site when this stupid rookie report comes out, but that's a whole nother discussion. Anyways, these are the stash rankings. Basically, you go in there. If you're a Prime or Sicko subscriber, you can access them. And like, it's kind of tiers based. And, you know, obviously Stevenson there, you know, he was in that second tier, the priority stash tier. And then, you know, I think that just kind of goes to show you, like, a guy like that can, like, I would prefer Stevenson to be on my roster when he has that game, as opposed to he's on the waiver wire and then I got to be competitive to pick him up, something like that. Now there are guys that like should be, in terms of these potential next Ramondre Stevensons or these potential league winners, you know, like Sony Michel, dude. I know they play tonight. who knows what could happen if somebody's watching this later, but like
Right.
Sony Michel, he should be rostered in 100% of leagues. I think
100%.
Alexander Madison, Dearness Johnson, like Khalil Herbert, Chuba Hubbard, those guys have had their moment in the sun at different points this year. Like they should all be rostered in 100% of leagues. But man, let me tell you what, like I want to make sure if I've got, like I said, go cut your wide receiver 5 and add someone like Jeff Wilson, someone like Samaje Perine, Ronald Jones, Mark Ingram had a game last week, even Carlos Hyde. Brother, if James Robinson gets hurt again, Carlos Hyde's going to see 20 touches, and it's not going to be great. But how about even like going down to the next tier, like guys that, I'd rather, like they should be on speed dial or a stash like that. Marlon Mack, like maybe even Marlon Mack should be on the back end of your bench in case, like God forbid, Jonathan Taylor gets hurt. There are just these guys like that could pop up. And would you be surprised if something happens to Darrell Henderson, a guy who has durability questions and this is the reason they brought in Sony Michel? Would you be surprised if something happened to Darrell Henderson and like Sony Michel is the number 1 or number 2 fantasy back in the month of December? I would be 0% surprised.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time in fantasy. I mean, there's other guys too. How about in Atlanta, Cordero Patterson dealing with the mild high ankle sprain. Maybe he's out a couple weeks. Wayne Gallman was getting burned. Yeah. Right. So it's like, I mean, I don't love Wayne Gallman. Just like we didn't love Devontae Booker, but Devontae Booker was a top 12 PPR running back when he played. You know what I mean?
Hey, how about Peyton Barber? Remember when we all were like, "Oh, great, John Gruden's going to play Peyton Barber," and he had that one monster game against the Dolphins. I got to think about adding Wayne Gallman because I have the not a stash category, which is the James Connors, the AJ Dillons, the Jamal Williamses, and Mike Davis. I had this guy and Tony Pollard, obviously. Like those guys are flex with benefits, like they you can play those guys if you're kind of desperate or something. Obviously, James Conner is like starting now, but AJ Dillon, we'll talk about him in a second too. But yeah, I think Mike Davis was kind of in that category. But man, Wayne Gallman looked better than Mike Davis last week, so we might be talking about Wayne Gallman. Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean. Yeah, like I'll take Wayne Gallman over Mike. I don't know what happened to Mike Davis between last year and not saying he was like some world beater last year, but I mean, he was
great in fantasy.
He was great in fantasy because of the volume, but I mean, he was at least like a league average running back. Like it's completely fallen off the track. Like he can't move. Like what happened with Mike Davis? Anyways, doesn't matter. Wayne Gallman is a bit of a stiff too, but who cares? Like he looked like he had a little bit more juice than Mike Davis, and Cordero Patterson sounds like he's going to miss a little bit of time here. So yeah, Wayne Gallman's in the mix. He's in the mix, which is sad to say, but it is true. Oh my gosh,
would prefer you grab guys in good offenses. Like that's why I wanted to mention, like Samaje Perine, Ronald Jones. I know Ronald Jones is like I'm not a Ronald Jones guy, but like if Uncle Lenny pops a tire, Ronald Jones is getting like 17 carries in the Bucs offense, and they're better than what we saw last week.
Let me ask you this, man. Who do you prefer in Pittsburgh's offense? Because it's not a great offense, but it's not a horrible offense either. And Najee Harris, obviously, look, he saw 88% of the snaps. If he ever goes down, the next guy's getting that snap share, right? Yeah. So who is it? Is it Benny Snell or Kalen Ballage? I tell you what, again, when we're talking about, hey, listen, cut your wide receiver 5, stash somebody. These guys are going to be free. You don't need to burn a waiver wire priority. You could wait till free agents run. One of those two guys is worth a pickup. You know what I mean?
And this is not even a good waiver week anyways. Like who's the big waiver wire pickup this week? Like
no one.
No one. Stevenson's already on rosters. AJ Dillon was drafted, stuff like that. So no one's picking up the Titans back. I put Benny Snell as number 13 in the running back stash rankings. It's a great situation there. They like love to ride one back, but I don't know that they do that if it was just Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage there. But I put him in kind of the tier 3 of guys that should be on like waiver wire speed dial or like a deeper stash, basically. Below the Stevenson, Perine, Ronald Jones, Mark Ingram tier, but close to the top of the second tier with Marlon Mack, who, even if Jonathan Taylor went down, to be like a Marlon Mack, Naheem Hines split. I think Benny Snell, Kalen Ballage would probably split touches, but I think Snell would be the first guy out there.
Yeah, it's I'm actually torn on that, because I think Ballage is the better athlete.
He stinks.
He's
So
not a,
bad.
Hey, listen, bro.
Bad
Hey, listen.
football player.
He's not a good football player. I'm not arguing that. You know what I'm saying? But let's not make it seem like let's not make it seem like Benny Snell is some kind like it's some kind of great.
True.
You know what I mean? Like if they had a guy who I was like, yo, not a great athlete, but good football player. Of course, we're going that route. But I'm just saying, when you're looking at Kalen Ballage or frickin' Benny Snell, it's like, all right, I don't know. Maybe Kalen Ballage has a little bit more. I don't know. I'll say this about Pittsburgh too. Obviously, they have done a great job in terms of developing players at every position. It doesn't matter what position you play. They've done a great job developing wide receivers. They've done a great job developing running backs throughout their course of their history. Mike Tomlin's, that part of his game is so underappreciated, his player development. And so, I don't know. Like, does Kalen Ballage get into this system and then all of a sudden that athleticism actually turns into something? The last time we saw Kalen Ballage, he played for a crap ass Miami team. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he had that stint with the Chargers where it was like, oh, maybe he'll fill in there for Austin Eckler. That's a tough one too. I don't know what to do if like Austin Eckler ever, God forbid, knock on wood, got hurt. Like, I put Larry Roundtree at 18 in the stash rankings, but like that's mostly to reflect like I'd love to get the back here, but is it Justin Jackson?
I think it's
Josh Kelly. I think it's Justin Jackson too, but I don't know. I don't know
either. I'll tell you what. I definitely. I don't know. That's just pure speculation. You got to flip going. But I do think it would be. I do think it would be Justin Jackson, who gives you a little bit more versatility than those two other guys. I don't know. Anyways, it's really interesting. There are certainly a lot of guys out there. But the Pittsburgh one interests me a lot because again, they're just completely free. No one is thinking about these guys, but it's crazy because if something were to happen, that next guy, in my opinion, sees like 70% of the snaps. That's a hell of a lot of workload.
Yeah. I mean, when you can get yourself the potential second string feature back on a Mason Rudolph led offense, buddy, that's how you win fantasy leagues. Long story short,
was that game, man. How gross was that game? Oh, it was awful.
It was so many offensive things happened in that game. Mostly that kick by the Lions backup kicker at the end. Like, what was that?
I have no idea. Jared Goff, who obviously people don't like already, in a bad weather game. It's like, I don't know how many times have I said like Jared Goff in bad weather is literally the worst quarterback in the entire world. Right. So like, all right. Plus he's got like a back injury or whatever. Oh my God, this whole situation. Mason Rudolph. Oh, bro, I had people trying to tell me Deontay Johnson was going to actually be better because Mason Rudolph could throw it deeper. I'm like,
it's enough of Mason Rudolph. Like we saw this guy start for most of 2019. Like,
and he stinks.
And he stinks. And like, he's the worst kind of quarterback and he's still the backup after all these years. Like,
makes no
what are we
sense.
doing, Steelers? I mean, they're so ill-equipped for like post Ben Roethlisberger life. Like we're all giving the Packers shit, for Jordan Love, but like at least they tried something, man. It pissed off their current quarterback to no end, and they find themselves in a horrible situation. But it's like, then I know that it's like, well, Ben, Ben probably surprised them by coming back in this last season. But what was the plan if he didn't come back? Like, we're really going to roll Mason Rudolph out there? Like, it's enough of Mason Rudolph already. We don't need to see any more of that.
I know. It's funny, right?
Well, we might see him again. He might start again this week because, Ben Roethlisberger, like Jay Glazer reported, he's got symptoms and like he might miss this game against the Chargers. So,
oh Lord. There you go. Anyways, but yeah, what a weird situation that game was, and what a weird game and ugly ass game. That was, but some interesting names out there. Just to kind of make everything concise, Matt, give the people out there like 3 names that you're like, all right, make sure you stash these guys.
I think, again, number 1 is Sony Michel. He is number 1 on the running back stash rankings on receptionperception.com. I think everybody else in my should be 100% rostered tier. Alexander Mattison, Dearness Johnson, Khalil Herbert, and Chuba Hubbard, I think, are probably pretty close because they've all like had moments of starting this year. Stoney Michel is the number one stash, I think, that isn't widely already on rosters.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then I think the next, if you're looking at the next tier down, I would prefer to like priority stash guys. I think it's Ronald Jones and Samaje Perine, because Jeff Wilson's pretty widely rostered because he was on IR spots, and Stevenson got picked up this week. So number 8, number 9 in stash rankings, Perine and Ronald Jones. They've shown they really trust Perine in passing down situations there for the Bengals. And I think Perine's a pretty good player. So he would be up there. And then Ronald Jones is up there as well, even though God, I don't want to see Ronald Jones start a game.
I feel so justified in Samaje Perine. We were doing this, weren't we doing the NFL Fantasy Live podcast when I was talking about how much I loved Perine?
Oh yeah.
And
it's crazy that the Oklahoma backs are together again. Perine and Mixon.
I know. Isn't that nuts? That's crazy. These guys are teammates from college, and now they're back together. It's crazy. Good stuff. But anyway, so I feel semi-justified because I'm like, this guy, I was like, see, I told you he could play.
Also, by the way, it's weird. It's weird that the draft. Sorry, no one cares about this, but the draft analysis on those two guys was, man, Perine is a grinder. But Mixon, great receiving back. And now the freaking Bengals take Mixon off the field to put Perine in passing situations. Very weird. Very strange.
Makes no sense to me. I don't know. Hey, let's talk about A.J. Dillon, speaking of backup running backs. And this is the prime case of okay, this is why you take a guy like this. You talk about flex with benefits or whatever, and that's A.J. Dillon in a nutshell. You talk about he was 100% drafted, was widely going in 10th round, sometimes earlier, because people thought, hey, listen, this guy can absolutely play, and he can, Now we're talking about a knee injury here for Aaron Jones, going to miss a few weeks, whatever it might be. I just think so long as Aaron Jones is out, to me, A.J. Dillon is a top 10 back in fantasy.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I love AJ Dillon. This is why I said, he was a guy, like you said, 9th, 10th round. I was taking him every single time. And I know it's been hit. And there have been times over the last few weeks, I had to play AJ Dillon as an RB2 because Derrick Henry got hurt on all my teams and, stuff like that. It's okay, well, at least AJ Dillon's getting some work, that's the flex with benefits theory. That's the, and Tony Pollard became that guy this year.
Right. Yes.
Where he's actually been getting some real work, the James Conner was a flex with benefits. You could throw him out there and pray for a touchdown. And most time your prayers were answered. So, but they have this monster upside. We talk about James Conner having this monster upside. Obviously, we're about to see that with AJ Dillon now. And I just am obsessed with this guy as a player. Big ass back, the thighs, bro. You want to talk about
the quads,
the quads. I mean, skies out, thighs out for AJ Dillon and all my fantasy teams right now. Cause we are about to see this guy go ham. I think he is so good. And you want to talk about a situation that is just perfect for fantasy success at the running back position. AJ Dillon is talented. I think there's no question about that. Number 2, this Packers offense sneaky runs kind of a boomer offense. They're very,
totally.
Which is I think kind of a good thing. We look at these teams that are all light and finesse right now, but the Packers kind of we think about them because of Aaron Rodgers and the passing game and Devontae Adams, but the Packers kick your ass, man. Especially they got David Bakhtiari coming back. They've got some other linemen and all that type of stuff. The Packers are a physical team that'll beat you up. AJ Dillon is a physical back that will beat you up as well. And most importantly of all, the takeaway that I think has gone under the radar here, the Packers defense might be legit really good. That's going to keep them in game scripts where they're going to be able to put the ball in AJ Dillon's belly 20 times per game as long as he's starting, and this is a defense that's doing it without their best players like Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander. Alexander sounds like he could be coming back soon. We'll see about Smith, but they've had injuries. They've got Devondre Campbell, this total no one that they picked up. They used to be bad with the Falcons, and he's making all kinds of plays for him. So the Packers, Dean Lowry makes one unbelievable play a game. This is just a great defense. I think that's on the come up. They've slaughtered basically back to back Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, and now Russell Wilson. Russ got his own problems, but we'll talk about that later. this is a good defense. Like, this is a perfect
Yeah.
situation for a big grinder back like AJ Dillon. It's not, James, the question is not, is he a top 10 back? Because the answer is yes. It's how high can you put him in that top 10 going into week 11?
Okay. Well, how high are you putting him? He's taking on Minnesota. You know, they've got some issues on their front line, but yeah, I've got him. I don't, without looking at my list. I mean, it's like I have him as a clear cut, easy top 10. What do you're getting me hyphy now? What are we talking? Like higher? We going higher?
I mean, let me pull up just some rankings here, and we'll talk about some guys. And yeah, it's early in the week, whatever. Shut up, who cares? But yeah, I mean, that you're right though. The matchup with Minnesota is legit good. I mean, okay, like Najee Harris, Nick Chubb if he plays, Zeke Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, those guys are all over. Yep. James Conner against the Seahawks or AJ Dillon against the Vikings.
Oh, give me AJ.
I don't know.
Dillon. Give me AJ.
Yeah.
Dillon.
Leonard Fournette against
Taylor.
the Giants.
Yeah, you got to throw Jonathan Taylor into the mix. Well, although, wow, Jonathan Taylor's got Buffalo. Ooh,
got the Bills, yeah. I would still probably put Jonathan Taylor there, but like, Leonard Fournette against the Giants, I think I'd probably take AJ Dillon just slightly. Giants defense has been playing better. Alvin Kamara coming off an injury against the Eagles. Eagles have been giving up.
He might not even play. He might not.
So
even
we'll
play,
see.
Though.
We'll see.
Austin
Then you're
Eckler?
like, Austin Eckler against the Steelers, though.
Ooh, interesting.
Can you believe? I mean, it's classic Dan Campbell says Dan Campbell, like said going into this week, I'm going to take more of an active role in calling the offense. And they ran DeAndre Swift like 32 times against the Steelers defense. What are we doing here, brother? Come on, man.
Hey, dude, but how crazy is this though? Like, okay, like we laugh about it, but it worked. Like, that's what was so stupid. Like, the Steelers defense had given up 2 rushing touchdowns to running backs all year long. And the Lions, the freaking Detroit Lions, run it down their throats. And they scored 2 running back touchdowns in that game with backup running backs. Some random, wasn't he like a converted safety or something that played running back once Jamar Jefferson went down? It was like, it was so random.
Dallas something, I think. I don't know.
It was, I can't even remember what the hell his name was. It was something crazy.
I know. I was getting excited about Jamar Jefferson. And
exactly.
It's like,
then he got hurt on the touchdown run. On the actual touchdown run, the guy gets hurt, which is crazy.
All right, but back to AJ Dillon.
Yes.
So, okay, taking Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey. I think Austin Eckler even against the Steelers, and Nick Chubb against the Lions for sure.
There you go. Oh yeah, he's RB1.
Zeke.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And then I think you're getting right there towards 8. It's Jonathan Taylor versus the Bills or AJ Dillon.
Yeah.
Like I think RB 6, 7, 8, depending on Kamara's status, stuff like that. I think you're looking at a top 8 potential back here with AJ Dillon. And
let's go.
If then they get the Rams the week after that. I know that like the Rams, you can run a little bit on the Rams, but it still should be a high scoring game. And like when they get inside the 5-yard line, we saw it against the Seahawks. Like they're slamming old AJ Dillon up there, buddy. Like I think that it's just such a good spot. And man, he makes plays as a receiver. We saw that as well last week too. Like he's not just he's like he is like
catch. He can catch. He can
remember
do everything.
He can do everything. I remember getting all gassed up about like Leonard Fournette when he's taking passing down work for the Bucs, and it's like, oh man, you start Leonard Fournette every single week. It's like AJ Dillon is what people wanted Leonard Fournette to be coming into the NFL draft. Like, and he can catch and he can make plays out in space. Like,
right.
I am obsessed with this guy. It's why I drafted him everywhere in August. And like, I'm probably going to rank him super high this week.
I love it. Let's go, man. That's great. I love that. All right. So there you go. Hey, let's talk about Carolina's offense though. I mean, dude, Cam Newton, this dude's on the couch like 2 days ago. Like, what is going? I cannot believe this guy just comes in and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's cool. Just come in, 2 plays, 2 touchdowns. Don't even worry about it. I'm good."
Did you hear his quote after? Did you hear his quote after the game? They asked him how much of the playbook did you know, and he said 2 touchdowns worth. What a Cam thing to say.
I know.
I love that Cam has lost like none of his brand. He's still Cam, buddy. Like you got to appreciate a man being himself.
Still Cam.
you know me, before we talk about the fantasy stuff, let's just get this out of the way. You know me, I have a complicated relationship with the Carolina Panthers. I've said this many years about the team. This is the most excited I've been as a whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to call myself a fan, but like, this is the most excited I've been about the Panthers in 100 years. And I mean, it's crazy that they've got the quarterback that they wanted to kick out the door, replacing the quarterback who replaced the quarterback that replaced Cam Newton. You know, like that whole thing is a mess. I don't know what the future of this team looks like, but I think Cam might be what they need to get this team into the playoffs. Like, you know, I know that sounds crazy, but like they could get that last seed in the NFC because there's just, you know, a lot of other teams kind of hanging around that area. Like, and they're legit players on this team. And I think that's the key part of this that I think, and I know this is like narrative based and people hate this and like shove it up your analytics ass. Like, I'm sorry, this stuff matters. Like the defense is, you don't want to be one of those defenses that's just like this unit is balling and you're suddenly like giving up on the season because the offense stinks. Like, how about all those Jets teams with like Mark Sanchez when they had that great defense and like the defense was literally fighting with the offense, you know, in the locker room.
Yeah,
that was what this team because this was so bad. That was what Sam Darnold was doing to this Carolina Panthers team. Not just the defense, but Robbie Anderson. This is a guy like you could actively see hated playing with Sam Darnold, and then like. He is glowing, literally glowing up there with Cam Newton in the post-game presser after he catches a touchdown from him. And Cam Newton, there are clips of it, of him like rallying the troops on the sideline. This was the whole thesis of why they had to cut Cam Newton in New England, because it was like, and Cam even said this on his YouTube page after he got cut. He's like, you can't have a guy like me. I'm like, he's a gravitational force. Like guys are drawn to him. They play for him, all this stuff. And I'm telling you, this stuff matters for a team like the Panthers, because you don't want Robbie Anderson going in the tank. You don't want DJ Moore out there like, oh God, I'm going to get 7 targets, but who knows where the hell they're going to be. You know, you don't want them to be a non-competitive team. And then they like shut down Christian McCaffrey at the end of the year. Like, I think this Cam stuff he's not going to be like MVP Cam Newton, but he's going to keep the team from being an embarrassment. And that's where they were trending towards before this.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Can we talk about CMC usage though? Like, bro, I get it. You know, it's like, okay, you're taking on the Cardinals. You want to give them a lot of work, but
yeah, he got banged up again.
I got banged up again.
I know.
Okay, dude, you're loading this dude up with 23 total touches. Like, my guys. Yeah, I know. Like, let's mix in some other guys, you know, like you have Amir Abdullah, you've got Chuba Hubbard, like,
well, hey, they got Cam now. They got Cam now.
And they got Cam. Okay. Like, I don't get it. And like, you know, you could look and say, oh, well, Christian McCaffrey only played 60% of the snaps. It's like, you know, usually plays 100%. It's like, yeah, all right, I guess. But like, golly, man, they just don't care. I mean, and you know, this is the funny thing too. He played like, I don't know what it was in the first half, but he played like something like 85% of the snaps in the first half. If this was a more competitive game, he's probably playing like 80, 90%, right?
I hope not. I hope that they'll keep him around, because I think that's probably the biggest problem is like, you know, this guy's out there gunning it every single snap. I don't know that it's the touches part of it, because, you know, when he got this hamstring injury, that was like a non-contact thing way back in the beginning of the season. So
on a reception, by the way,
on a reception, not just a rush. Yeah, no, I totally feel you. I do think like Cam Newton's going to take those short yardage situations. Cam Newton's gonna be like a top 15. He's top 15 in our rest of season rankings on the site, like in terms of quarterbacks, like, because he's gonna score rushing touchdowns, bro. Like, dude, and he's got players around him. And I think this matters too. I'm just like, I don't know how to talk about the CMC thing. It's very frustrating. Like, it's irritating. But with Cam Newton too, like, the good thing about Newton is not only is he like a franchise icon, he's also got baked in chemistry with guys like McCaffrey and DJ Moore. Like, he's played with these guys. You know, this is DJ Moore and Cam Newton had at least 2 seasons, you know, when they were around each other. Cam had some weird, like, Mufasa Simba analogy from,
which is so odd.
Weird.
Anyways, but how about the CMC looking all stoked on the sideline too with Cam too? You know, you're like, oh, cool.
I'm
like,
telling you,
we got
that
the boys
stuff,
back together.
That stuff matters. Like, that matters for a team not going in the tank. Like, and I think Cam is just, like I said, he's that gravitational pull and like, hey, I know Sam Darnold had some cute little moments to start the year, but this team never looked like that with Sam Darnold.
I'm just saying,
in the picture.
How do you look at the Carolina Panthers in that game against Arizona? And like, shout out to our guy, Patrick Claybon, but like, how do you look at that game and say, oh, there's no such thing as momentum? You know, it's like, holy shit, dude. Like, I know. Those guys rallied, boy. Like, you can't just tell me it's like, oh, that's just how the game script was. Like, no, dude. Like, these guys were fucking stoked on the sideline, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Momentum is real. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that one. They're feeling it there.
They are feeling it, boy. Hey, complete opposite end of the spectrum, though. Seattle's offense shut out for the first time in Russell Wilson's career, 150 whatever games. Like, first time they were shut out. And dude, I was thinking this during the broadcast too. I'm just thinking like, how is it possible that we have a Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers game and this game is boring AF?
3-0 for most of this game.
Oh my God, it was such a boring game. You're like, dude, what is going on? And Seattle just needs to make like 2 plays and they're in it, man. You know, like that's crazy.
So, I know it's frustrating, but I'm going to offer a little bit of hope on the Russell Wilson thing. I know this was very frustrating, but I'm still pretty bullish. I'm not going to move like Lockett or Metcalf in the rankings. I'm not going to move Russ in the ranking. I was reading ahead of this game that apparently Russell Wilson during the warmups, not his little fake warmups, real warmups, like he couldn't take snaps. He couldn't take snaps from under center because it was too painful. But it's like the Seahawks are, and which makes sense, like banging a football into your finger.
Yeah.
By the way, Russell Wilson apparently said he was doing 19 hours of rehab. How do you rehab your finger for? I know. How do you rehab your finger for 19 hours?
Like, bro, first of all, who also reported? Was that Ian? That was Ian, right? I'm like, guys, like I get it, you know, like this is what the player told you, but like you don't have to report exactly what the player told you when.
Well, you got to do. Well, if we've seen something the last few weeks, sometimes you got to say what the agent wants you to say. I mean, you don't got to, but they do.
Exactly. I'm like, hey, let's use some common sense, man. You know, like there's only 5 hours left in the day. You're telling me that literally this dude would wake up, rehab from every moment of his life. Like he's going to the bathroom and rehabbing his finger. He's eating dinner and rehabbing his finger. This is what you're trying to tell me right now? Like, really?
And that's bogus enough. But like, also, if Russ is getting 5 hours of sleep, that's not good. If you're a professional athlete, you're sleeping more than 5 hours. I'm telling you that. So, yeah,
exactly. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? Like, dude, bro, come on. You're not rehabbing 19 hours a day. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my again, the doctor who works on our show, Dr. Mark Addix, orthopedic surgeon, freaking went to Harvard Medical School. He's probably rehabbing 19 hours a week. Rehabbing 19 hours a week. Not
and
a
what
day.
Is
he's like literally impossible to do it.
I don't even know what you do. It's like one thing if he was like, you know, ripped up his knee and like you're doing the whole running in the pool situation, you're doing the bike, all that stuff.
It's a finger. Like
it's a
what
finger.
Are you doing?
You're playing.
It's like what?
You're playing like Game Boy. Like you gotta make sure it's good. Really anyways, all this to say, after 19 hours per day,
stupid report.
Stupid report. But apparently after 19 hours a day of rehab, Russ couldn't take snaps under center, and they didn't find this out until maybe later in the week or right before the game. And like, that's kind of problematic because, buddy, the Seahawks are an under center offense. Like Shane Waldron coming off that, you know, Sean McVay Shanahan tree. Mm-hmm. Those guys are play action under center, all that stuff. Like that's, someone should have said to Russ right there, like, well, okay, you can't take snaps under center. Like, you're not playing it. But I realize, you know, Russ has kind of got him over a barrel after this whole thing last offseason, wanting more input. So you can't really just be like, yeah, never mind, we're going to play Geno. But they were sunk before the kickoff, if that's the case. So I think as long as Russ's finger he's doing more 19-hour-a-day rehab and he's feeling better for next week.
19 hours.
You know, going into the Cardinals, matchup, I feel a lot better about Russ and these guys because he just clearly didn't look right. I mean, he was sailing past. Like, how many times we say on this show, like, wow, yeah, Geno Smith rifles that ball in there to Tyler Lockett, not that drop it in like Russ did. Hey, Russ was not dropping that bad boy into Tyler Lockett at all this week. So,
although, hey, you know what though? At the end of the game, though, by the end of the game, he seemed to get that back a little to kind of dovetail into what you were saying about, hey, there's a little bit of hope there in Seattle, because it did seem like he got that ball back, and I don't know. And it makes sense, right? Like, you miss all this time. It's like, it's not like you could just drop into frickin', playing Green Bay and just being like, all right, well, here we go, right? Like, he is going to need a little bit of warm-up time. Especially
a Green Bay defense, like we highlighted earlier, is getting better. So, yeah, no, I mean, they get the Cardinals next week, Washington after that. We'll see where the Washington defense is at that point. That'll be a Monday night game. Then the 49ers and the Texans. So, they got a pretty good schedule to finish off here in terms of, they can be winning these games. So we'll see. I'm not panicking about what we saw yesterday with Russ, especially with that report that they that he could not take snaps under center. I think that makes a pretty big difference.
I mean, you talk about an ugly game, man. DK Metcalf, 3 catches, 26 yards. Tyler Lockett,
ejected.
2 catches for 23. Like, homie, like, what is Gerald Everett? The corpse of Gerald Everett rises up. 8 targets, 8 catches, 63 yards for Gerald Everett. You're like, oh my gosh, what the hell is happening out here in Seattle, man? But yeah, it was certainly ugly. And yeah, I think there's, obviously there's some hope, now that we got Russell back. Every week that goes by is good for him. But boy, that injury, I don't know, man. It almost feels like a lost season for Seattle. Cause like, hey, here's the other thing, Matt, like, these other teams, like, you talk about Carolina, okay, their offense was, whatever, floundering, but they could hang their hat on the defense. Like they got good defense. Like, what the hell does Seattle hang their hat on?
I think not even just a lost season. It feels kind of like the end of an era season. This is a quarterback that asked out or wanted to, start a little bit of a issue in the locker, or not in the locker room, but with the front office this past off season. Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the NFL. And where is this team going? They don't have a first round pick this year because they sent it for a safety that they have to hide in Jamal Adams. Like, it's a mess. So I don't know.
I mean, they don't have a great defense. They don't have a great run game. And with an injured
their passing game is even like hit or miss. Even with Russ, like they were not a great offense even before Russ, because they don't attack the middle of the field. And
so
it's like a consistent thing.
What do you hang your hat on? It's like, I don't know. It's tough. A buddy of mine who lives in Seattle brought up a great point. He's just like, you know what? He's like, to me, Pete Carroll just looks tired. And I'm like, we give Pete Carroll all sorts of credit, and rightfully so, for just having all this energy.
He's a great coach, yeah.
He's an awesome coach, Hall of Fame coach. There's no question about it. One of the best to ever do it. But I think there's some validity to that. I mean, at the end of the day, he is an old man. I mean, he's legit an old guy, too. Like, we're not like, it's not like we're like laughing about being fake boomers. Like, no, legit, he's an old man.
He's an actual boomer.
He's an actual, like a legit actual boomer. And I think there's actually something to that, man. Like, God, he's been awesome. And like, the energy's cool, but like, shit, that stuff wanes even for a guy like that after a while, man. So I don't know. It's interesting.
And I wonder too, with Pete Carroll, Seattle's ownership situation is so up in the air right now. People can research that if they want, but like, he has an absurd amount of power, does Pete Carroll too. Like, cause he is the de facto decision maker, not John Schneider, the GM there. So like, we'll see. I mean, if it comes down to like a Peter Russ situation, I know most people would think they keep the quarterback, but they might just keep riding with Pete. But I don't know. Maybe Pete's like sick of this too. They will be a very interesting team to follow this offseason. That is for sure.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine worst case scenario? And no one's talked about this. How about if they lose both? How about if Russ goes and Pete retires, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I mean, you talk about starting over from scratch, boy. Oh my God, that would be worst case scenario. Like, Like Pete's like, you know what, guys? I actually am tired. I'm retiring. Peace out. It's been a great run. I appreciate y'all, but I got no Russell Wilson. We're out of here, dude.
Yeah, that'll be enough.
We are out of here. Yeah, we're good. Hey, let's get to some of these questions, and then we'll get to this Monday night game. It's time for Ask RP, where we take some of the questions from the Discord. If you guys aren't in the Discord, get in the Discord. It's a great little community we got going over there. Very, very well-educated and well-versed football fans in that Discord community. All right, how about this one from Griffin? Most surprising wide receiver performance this year. Wanted to add good or bad, or you could split them.
I think for good, obviously, I think Cooper Kupp being the number one receiver in fantasy is a surprise. Deebo Samuel being such a monster is a surprise. But I would say a positive surprise is actually Marquise Brown. That I think has been this guy's the wide receiver 8 in fantasy. Like that's a surprising one. He's gotten 82 targets on the year. That is not something I was projecting. Obviously, Rashad Bateman, by the way, RP rookie report dropping this week. Oh my God, Rashad Bateman's so good. But anyways, Marquise Brown being as good as he is, he was a guy who's been like top 10 in success rate versus zone coverage the last 2 years in reception perception. Probably should have given that more credit coming into the year, especially because they kind of changed his role to be more of an interior receiver. But I think that from a positive angle has been the biggest surprise to me.
What about from a negative standpoint?
From a negative standpoint, I don't know. What do you think from a negativity standpoint? Obviously, the Ayuk thing was a surprise, but we're past that.
It's actually interesting. Until last week, until this week, I would have probably said Stephon Diggs. He's been good, but he's just not been great. And finally, we got a breakthrough performance, right? Like a 30 spot in PPR. But up until this week, really, he's just kind of sort of been like an okay
solid
receiver,
like a floor play.
Solid.
He's been,
Isn't
it funny though? This is just how fantasy works. People were like, he's not even a top 20 receiver in now he's the wide receiver 13, like, on the year. I would say a surprising negative performance. If I was just Chase Claypool, like I know he's injured right now, and I know he's playing with Ben Roethlisberger, but I don't think he's played very well this year. I don't think he's taken a leap. Like Deontay Johnson is still who Deontay Johnson is, but I think Chase Claypool is still. I noted this in his RP profile. After his rookie season, is not good in contested situations, not good like winning in tight coverage. I still think that is a big problem for him, which is strange because he's a big boy.
Yeah, no, it's true. One surprise for me, a positive surprise for me, is Jamar Chase. Rookie wide receiver. He's going the sixth or seventh round. All these negative reports coming in, and man, just from the jump was just an absolute baller. He has been somebody that I think has been a very pleasant and positive surprise. And again, it's just mostly because the preseason went disastrously bad for him. In terms of the negative reports coming out of Cincinnati. And then, he's just been great. He's just been great. So there you go. How about this from Young Simba? Is there a reason the Eagles are running the ball better since Sanders has been out? Or should we expect this when he returns as well? I'm just freaking baffled by it. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. Like, why are they running the ball with freaking Jordan Howard, but they wouldn't run the ball with Miles Sanders?
I think the flower man, Nick Sirianni, is learning on the job. We'll put it nicely. But I think the reason they're doing it now is it's smart. Like, and they were, to be fair about the Miles Sanders thing, because I wondered this too. I'm like, does this say something about Miles Sanders? Like, is this a bad? I think Miles Sanders is like fine, he's an okay starting back or whatever. He's got some explosiveness, but I don't know that I'd say he's like a future superstar. Like he'd be RB1 if they just gave Miles Sanders the ball, or that fixed all their problems, like that type of back. Right. But I think he's a pretty good player, and to be fair to Miles Sanders, they were starting to kind of figure out that we need to run the ball a little bit better. The game that he got hurt, the game that he got injured in, they were starting to kind of feed him a little bit. So I think Sanders might be an interesting trade target just to take a risk like that. Okay, they're gonna just make him the guy of this run first offense, because this is how they should have been playing offense all along. Like, what were they doing putting Jalen Hurts in like the old Colts Phillip Rivers offense? Like And I think the fact that their passing game is just narrowed down to Devontae Smith, who's always open, and like Dallas Goedert when he's healthy, like enough with Jalen Reagor and these other guys, like I think they're doing the right thing on offense, basically. I don't know if it says anything good or bad about Miles Sanders, but I would at least be like optimistic that they seem to have figured out their offensive issues.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, if Miles Sanders ends up being that multi-versatile back that he was built to be coming out of college, and I loved his tape too, that would be interesting. You know, I think they're still going to run somewhat of a committee out there, but if Miles Sanders, you're right, if he can be like the lead dog, and we're talking like, I don't know, 65 to 70% of the snaps, boy, that would be really interesting. And
that'd be nice.
I think you're right. I think he's a perfect buy low candidate there in Philadelphia. So that's really, really good. All right, last question, and then we'll bang out of here. Any potential trade targets for the playoffs? Well, actually, any potential targets for the playoffs? And this one is from Jay Scott.
Yeah, he mentioned like people that are getting open or whatever. I mentioned Rashad Bateman. Dude, that guy is a superstar. I think people are going to be blown away when they see his midseason kind of progress report and the RP rookie report. Want to get him in every roster. Hopefully we don't see them messing around with Sammy Watkins again. Hopefully they learned their lesson after last week. Elijah Moore also, I think I want to stash him, but they're just not playing him enough. So we'll see about that one. Patriots receivers too. You know, I know Jacoby Myers gets in his first touchdown. Kendrick Bourne starting to play it a little bit more. Mac Jones
Kendrick Bourne was like a top 10 fantasy wide receiver this week, dude. It's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy.
Those guys I think might be interesting to trade, you know, to grab right now or whatever, just because, you know, I think Mac Jones is starting to play a lot better and running like the type of offense he should run. You know, that those guys come to mind. All the players we talked about in the running back stash rankings, like go check those out. Those are players I want to be targeting for the playoff run just in case. And, you know, what about you? You got any thoughts here?
I think Bryan Edwards is an interesting candidate. I don't know. I just don't know what to make of him. You know, it's like I feel like he's an okay player they put him in a bad role.
Me too. Yeah. I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I said this before. They actually asked him to be a combination of T.O. and Randy Moss, like they said in training camp. Remember when it was like he's a combination of T.O. and Randy? It's like that's how they treat him, like an outside X receiver, and throw him like boundary passes. But it was interesting to see him getting work over like the middle, like vertical shots over the deep middle. That was interesting.
Yeah, he's more like, to me, it's like you could interchange him, T. Higgins, and like Tim Patrick, and just jumble them all up. They're all the same guy. You know, high quality number twos. But you can't ask them to win vertically. Like that's not what they do. They're high quality players. They just, you can't ask them to win in those areas. I think Hunter Renfrow, if he hasn't been added, I think needs to be added. They lean on him a lot. He's a really good player. He's always freaking open, and he's just going to be a PPR machine. So, and then it's just so funny. Like I watch, you know, and again, we're talking about the Raiders a lot, but I mean, even Deshaun Jackson, it's like so odd, but like, if he just caught that ball and ran straight, that's a touchdown.
What was your guy Deshaun doing on that one? It was like a Madden glitch.
I don't know. He caught the ball, and if he just ran straight, that's a freaking touchdown, and everyone is extolling the virtues of Deshaun again, right? It's like, oh, the old man still got it. He can still burn. He's a perfect fit for this. But no, it's like then the bad Deshaun comes out. This is the Eagles Deshaun where he drops the ball at the 1 yard line before crossing over, right? It's like that. It's that Deshaun now. It's like, damn it, Deshaun. Come on. Come on, man.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. By the way, I put this out on Twitter. Did I bring this up on this show? Marcus Johnson?
No, you did not extol the virtues of Marcus Johnson.
Marcus Johnson with Julio Jones on IR is going to be their number 2 wide receiver. And I think he showed, you know, some flashes, obviously, you know, long catches and those kind of things. Not a ton of usage. 6 targets, 5 catches, and 100 yards. But I think he's another player while Julio is out. And again, older player, bigger, bulkier player, hamstring issue. He's on IR. I don't know if he actually comes back right when he's eligible. You know what I'm saying?
We'll see.
Yeah, you might get another 3 full weeks of Marcus Johnson. But with all this coverage rolling over to A.J. Brown, dude, Marcus Johnson's open, bro. And they're running plays for him too, actually, in Tennessee, which is really interesting. Like clear out routes where, like A.J. Brown's a literal decoy and Marcus Johnson's just sliding in underneath and Tannehill's hitting him underneath. He's an interesting play. An interesting stash, I think, for me too. Other than all these, I mean, again, and I'm with you. Like, if you've got the room, go get the running backs. But if all those guys are gone, okay, and you're in a deeper league, I'm actually intrigued by Marcus Johnson moving forward.
That is a deep pull. That's a danger zone pick. That's for sure.
It is in the danger zone for sure. All right, man. Hey, listen, we got Monday Night Football right about to kick off pretty soon. But if you have not already, please like and subscribe to Matt's channel. That would be great. And we will see you guys, all you VIP Sicko subscribers, on Thursday. For everybody else, we'll see you Monday. Happy hunting, man. And again, if you guys have questions, find us on Twitter, dude. We do a pretty good job answering questions on Twitter. And I don't know if Matt, do you answer questions on YouTube? It's so random, but like people comment on my YouTube videos, ask me questions there, and I try to do my best to answer questions on that.
If you need to reach me, get me in the Discord, bro. I'll respond to you. I'll respond to you immediately in the Discord. That's for sure.
There you go. All right, so there you go. All right, for Matt Harmon, I'm James Coe. We will see you guys next week, man. Happy hunting. See you.